Alright, hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast and a game here on Antigua Shipyard, and the first thing you will notice is that I am in fact in this game. So let's go ahead and start off the game. We have ErEvilSD here spawning as the red Protoss player at the 2 o'clock position. Meanwhile, I'm spawning here as the blue Terran player at what I'll call the 10 o'clock position here on Antigua Shipyard. This was taken from the BattleNet game that I just recently played, or I just played. I did ask ErEvilSD if I could cast this game. He said he would be delighted. Hats off to a player from Taiwan, so he was actually playing with a little bit more lag than I was, and perhaps that could have had a large effect in the outcome of the game. Now, excuse me, a little early in the morning. Now, a couple of things to note. A lot of you guys out there have been asking me to cast some of my own games, and I decided, you know what, if I do cast one of my own games, it has to be more of a tutorial or more of an insight than just casting one of my games and going, see, look how good I am, because I'm really not that good. I'm just in Diamond right now. Wish I could practice more, but then life does put StarCraft on the backseat. I am, over 30 years old, so yes, I am old, and that way, and life takes a little bit of the front seat. StarCraft takes a little bit of a backseat unless I actually go full pro or something, but I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. I'm no White Raw. Now, I am opening up with a traditional build, a barracks followed by a reactor or a refinery here. And the reasoning for this build is there's so many options that a Terran player can open up after this. Taking a look at the Protoss player, he's pretty much opening up with a very similar build as well for most Protoss players. Oh, I have a little bit of a brain gaffe here. It's a little bit cold in California, and I end up messing things up. I mean to purposely attack this SC or this probe over here, and then instead I start accidentally attacking my own barracks, dealing 25 points of damage, which would have meant I could have easily taken out the probe instead of taking out my own barracks, which was a really silly mistake. Not quite sure why, and that puts me a little bit behind to start off in the game. Now, taking a look at ErEvilSD's base, he's not going for any early zealot at all, as, my hands are cold and get a little bit of a misclick. He's opening up with the standard cybernetics core and that gateway. There's that zealot now, and the zealot is there to try to push back against any crazy tactics. And just making sure that he can put pressure on my SCV. It looks like a probe is now coming around. Not quite sure why the probe's coming down all the way over here. Perhaps it is looking to make sure that I'm not doing any crazy builds in this location. He wants to scout out, and he wants to make sure that nothing strange is going on. Now, meanwhile, back over here, there is a zealot already on the ramp. I would have normally I would like to see the zealot positioned a little bit more in the center of the ramp so he can actually take down my SCV. The SCV, it's already pretty much going to die, but it needs to scout out everything. It's going to take a look, see the double assimilator, so I know that he's going for a very heavy gas build. But because of the Protoss Sentry, you don't really know if he's going to go for just a Sentry expand, or if he's actually going to try to tech. He is supply blocking himself just a little bit now. He did mess that up just a little bit there, as he's now getting additional gateways. He's smart enough to dump his minerals, but this supply blocking is really hurting him. He's sitting at 22 probes. I'm sitting at 18, and he is still not warping in an additional pylon, opting to warp in a pylon over here for some cheese play. So very smart in getting those additional gateways, knowing that he couldn't train up any more probes. Now finally getting up another pylon back over here. I'm sitting at 30 over 35 food. He's sitting at 26 over 26. Taking a look at the inside of my base, I don't know when he's going to be putting pressure in, but I did open up with a barracks with a reactor first, followed by a barracks with a tech lab. The barracks with the tech lab allows you to get marauders with a concussive shell early on, just in case your opponent tries to poke their head in with stalkers. Stalkers with that superior range and faster movement speed can deal a lot of damage and be very annoying. That's why you want to get those marauders to try to push her and press that back. But already we see ErEvilSD now going into a Stargate, and he's going to be able to start void raid rushing me while warping in some stalkers over here. Now that I take a look at this, it probably would have been better positioned if the pylon was down over here, the Stargate was here. That way this could be used as the proxy pylon while still keeping up that Stargate. And now he's going to start going into void rays and putting in a lot of pressure on me. His army not very large right now, but off of this Stargate and off of these 3 warp gates, we'll be able to lay down a lot of pressure. You can see that he stopped his probe production already. His probe production now currently sitting at 23 and not training anything else. Meanwhile, I am still training up SCVs, trying to get a very strong economy. You can see a proxy pylon off over here, now being warped in as well, as I have Marines and Marauders on the front door. One Void Ray does stick its head out and now starting to put pressure on this refinery. And luckily for me, I did opt to go for a reactor on a factory and also a starport. This is a very common build that I use against Protoss specifically, because it just handles against so much Protoss cheese. I can get Vikings, I can get Medivacs. If he doesn't put pressure and he tries to expand quickly, I can counterattack that. As you're now going to see as the starport do the swap here, and now the factory is starting to lift off. ErEvilSD's army is now starting to grow much, much larger. 650, 800 in terms of his gas compared to my essentially only 100. But I am researching level 1 weapons upgrade and stim. That's very important when you're fighting up against a Protoss player because of that Guardian Shield. Guardian Shield really reduces the effectiveness of stim and of Marines in general. If you can get that additional +1 damage, as soon as those sentries go down, your units just deal so much more damage here, as you're now going to see 2 Void Rays up on the front door. Force fields now coming in, the Marines and the Marauders being forced to pull back here. One Marine does get taken down, another Marine, but I do have a Viking, and that Viking with its superior range is going to be able to push back that Void Ray pretty successfully. He still has a much larger army at this point at 2,600 total resources compared to my 1,375, so I have to play it very safe. I do believe that he did sacrifice a lot of his economy in order to get all of this and this very large army. As you now see the front door, once again, supply depot gonna get destroyed again, but he did use a lot of force fields. So with so many force fields now being used, I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be able to cast nearly as many force fields, as also the Viking is in the air, able to just fight back and deal a lot more damage back to that Void Ray. 2 Vikings in the air now are going to be very, very helpful, and I need to build some supply depots back away from the front door just in case he's able to snipe it even further. And now he's going to go after my refinery. The refinery getting taken down is going to hurt me even more, but luckily I do have a fair amount of gas I'm sitting on. Marines, once again, going up against Stalkers. There are a couple Marauders here, but not very many. Only 4 Marauders, and luckily for me, 2 Medivacs, as the Vikings venture out a little bit too far, and the Void Rays being very careful to, or one of the Void Rays was taken down already, but the other Void Ray being very careful to stay up on the high ground and stay back. In comes the Stalkers now trying to engage. SCVs now coming in, and the Stalkers are from behind unable to move in. SCVs are also tanking a lot of that damage. The Vikings are now still in the air. I should have landed them, but SCVs are still continuing this counterattack, making sure after some of those Stalkers were just completely out of position, Vikings should be able to land more units. More Zealots should be warping in, but I still have Marines and Marauders in this group, and Marines are now going up against those Zealots, and because of my 1-0 upgrades, I'm able to actually win out in this battle, take down a pylon here, and now with him only having 22 probes, I have a much, much larger army, even though I fought back with a smaller army. Now, I need to time this carefully, and because of the way this map is situated, I know that it's going to be very difficult for me to simply walk out with my units using those Medivacs. I need to make sure that I make him pay for trying to do too much. I'm going to go ahead and warp in some drop over here, take down this Stargate, take down this pylon, and after that really strong counterattack, if I can start delaying his tech and perhaps making him supply blocked, that's going to help as well. Behind this, I'm also going to try to expand, and with this expansion, know that even if he does come out slightly, even if he does, or he is able to push back my counterattack, I still have a stronger economic advantage, and I can still rally units back at home. I'm still training up Vikings just in case he has any more Void Rays. The Vikings can go into ground mode to add a little bit more DPS, 12 DPS a second, I believe. Not quite as good as a Marine, or probably no, better than a Marine, but not for the same amount of food. Now, coming into here, I am getting the armor upgrades as well, and I'm really banking on my upgrades to really pull me ahead in this battle. The only thing that could really stop me now is either Colossi or Psystorm. That's the reason why I have the Vikings, to make sure that I can kite against the rest of those units. You can see that he's sitting at 42 over 42 food, so my job of trying to supply block him is starting to work, and now going after some of these pylons here. The Vikings are now in the high ground here. Marines are shooting up onto the high ground. The Vikings should be landing. Not quite sure why they're not. There we go, finally landing. And it's here to just absorb some of the damage from the Immortals as well. The Immortal, very effective against those Vikings, but I wanted to add a little bit more DPS and also have those Vikings in the front units. Probes finally coming off the mineral line, but with Marines with Stim, very, very effective at taking down all of those units there, and there is the GG. So a rather short game, but that game felt really, really tense during a couple of those battles, especially over here when he had about double the resources on me. Pulling the SCVs was a critical choice. Also noticing that his stalkers were unable to get up the ramp. Some of them were unable to engage, and because of that, he split up his army himself. And that's one of the things that you got to be very, very careful about when you charge up ramps, and then you get caught on a battle on a ramp. You end up losing half of your units just because they're not engaging. And then as soon as I pulled those SCVs, the SCVs were also tanking a lot of that damage. And by tanking a lot of that damage, it maximized how long my Marines and my Marauders could be fighting. And that started to tip the scales in my favor after that counterattack. And then also almost getting 1-1 upgrades on my units as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this cast. It is one of the few games I will cast. I'm not trying to promote myself, but I know a lot of you guys out there wanted to see, is Crota any good? Yeah, I think I know how to play StarCraft 2. I'm just very, very rusty in terms of execution. As I watch my replays, I find 500-700 things that I do wrong, but know that I just don't have the actions per minute or just the clarity to see what to do during the right times. Once again, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this replay, and I hope to see you guys on Battle.net.